Breaking news, Donald Trump has removed Article 1, Sections 9 and 10 of the United States Constitution from the Library of Congress's official website. These are the two parts that mention due process and habeas corpus. So, if you still don't think you live in a fascist regime, please scroll away, you're useless. To those of you who have a functioning brain, it is time for you to get a physical copy of the United States Constitution, because all of the online versions are going to be heavily modified, redacted, and they're going to remove the parts that give you your rights. So, if you care about the United States of America, please start ringing the alarm bells that Donald Trump is actively altering the United States Constitution.
All right, guys, real quick. It does seem to appear that Donald Trump is deleting sections of the Constitution from the government website. He's not removing them from the literal paper of the Constitution. But if you go to constitution.congress.gov, which is the government website that houses the full Constitution for people to read and do research, if you go to Article 1, and there are a number of different sections in Article 1, but if you scroll down, there should be sections 1 through 9, and it only goes to section 8. Section 9 is missing. I checked a couple other places, and section 9 did seem to be missing elsewhere in other places on the government websites as well. So it does definitely seem to be an intentional act. Now, if we look at what's in section 9, there are a number of different things. One of them is it bars Congress from banning the importation of slaves before 1808. And I highlighted a couple things that are happening right now that Donald Trump has taken issue with just recently. The Constitution specifically guarantees rights to those accused of crimes. That's called writ of habeas corpus. You've heard this because it's come up a lot in immigration, where they seem to be circumventing the writ of habeas corpus. What that means is it allows a prisoner in our country to challenge his or her imprisonment in court. It cannot be suspended except in extreme circumstances such as rebellion or invasion. And that's where Donald Trump has tried to kind of circumvent it. He says, well, there's a war on our country from all these immigrants, so we can circumvent it because it's an extreme circumstance, it's a rebellion or it's invasion. I think he calls it an invasion, where the public is in danger. That's what he is saying. This was suspended once before by President Lincoln to go after the Ku Klux Klan. I think we can all agree that that was a good move at the time. This section also prohibits the bills of attainder, which are laws that are directed against a specific group or group of persons, making them automatically guilty of serious crimes such as treason without a normal court proceeding. Now, that's come up recently because Donald Trump just accused Obama of committing treason. So it's interesting that that is in here. And then there are a few other things, but I want to highlight down here. It also requires that Congress produce a regular accounting of the monies the federal government spends, which, if you've been paying attention, there's been a lot of weird spending going on that is not properly being vetted by Congress. And lastly, it also specifically prohibits Congress from granting a title of nobility to any person and prohibits public officials from accepting a title of nobility, office, or gift from any foreign country or monarch without congressional approval. And that has come up as well, as Donald Trump just accepted this big jet from the Middle East, which appears to be some sort of bribe. All right, guys, so take that in its totality. Donald Trump removed all of this from the Constitution website. Just to be clear, he did not remove it from the Constitution, but it's a power grab, and he's trying to make sure that he controls the education and the information that is going out to people. So if you want to go find information about the writ of habeas corpus in the Constitution, he has removed it, for example. So this is pretty troubling, guys. This is not a, I don't know if this is a 10 on the scale. Donald Trump has done other things that are a 10, but this is up there. This is up there. All right, big thank you to this person who called out in my prior video. I was mentioning that Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution had been removed from the government website by Trump. And this person rightfully called out, so good catch, that Section 10 of the Constitution was also removed, interestingly. And this one has some interesting stuff in it. So Article 1, Section 10 limits the power of the states. States may not enter into a treaty with a foreign nation. That power is given to the president. States cannot make their own money, nor can they grant any title of nobility. Congress, states are prohibited from passing laws that assign guilt to a specific person or group without court proceedings, that make something illegal retroactively or interfere with legal contracts. And no state without approval from Congress may collect taxes on imports or exports, which has been a big topic in the tariffs recently. They cannot build an army or keep warships in times of peace, nor otherwise engage in war unless invaded or in imminent danger. So Donald Trump is, again, not removing this from the Constitution, but he is making it sort of hidden so people don't know it's there. And interestingly, this is a section that specifically limits the power of the states. So in thinking about, why Donald Trump would remove things that limit the power of the states, I have to imagine that, he might be thinking of specific states in this case, and removing this or hiding it to perhaps make it easier to do things that they were not previously allowed to do. So let me know your thoughts, guys.
Trump just removed Article 1 of the Constitution from the federal government website. Article 1 of the Constitution specifically deals with habeas corpus and due process, which is what guarantees people's right to challenge their detention and protects them from unlawful detention. The Library of Congress is trying to say it was removed due to a coding error, which would make sense if Trump officials hadn't been openly threatening to suspend habeas corpus for months. Trump himself has also expressed his disdain for this section because it slows down mass deportations by forcing him to, abide by the Constitution. Head of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said in May that habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country, which is quite literally the opposite of what it is. While changing the online copy of the Constitution doesn't have any legal impacts, it does highlight the Trump administration's clear intention to violate the Constitution in any way that they can.
Let's talk about this because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
much. It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United States?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Michael, I'm sorry. I can't believe that we are asking the question, is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution constitutional? It is crazy. And I am sorry, but people need to call, this is crazy. They're asking us not to believe our own eyes and our own ears. They're asking us to go against everything that we know to be true. This is insane.
Breaking news, Donald Trump is trying to steal the election again, but this time it's not just in one state. He's trying to do it nationwide. We saw the insurrection. We saw the gerrymandering in Texas. Now Trump is trying to redo the U.S. Census so he can steal Democratic congressional seats in every state nationwide and even impact the next presidential election. Trump just ordered the Commerce Department to create a new census that excludes undocumented immigrants. The problem is, under the Constitution, you've got to count every resident of a state. That's literally what the language says. It doesn't matter if they're illegal or not illegal. Trump is trying to change that. The second problem is the census happens every 10 years. 2020 was the last one. 2030 is the next one. He's trying to do one this year so that he can rejigger the numbers. It gets even worse than that. Trump is now saying that he wants the census based on how well he did in the last election. That's not what the census is about. The census is quite literally counting how many people reside in a state. That's what the Constitution says. It's not how many people voted for Trump. Guys, this is an unconstitutional power grab. It is dangerous as hell, and it is literally setting up a system so that our elections will never be fair again. This is the thing that everyone was warning about. Remember, people were saying, is Trump going to stop us from having elections in the future? It looks like he may let us have the elections, but they're never going to be fair again. Because a great nation deserves the truth. I'm John Aravosis in Washington. Very scared.
So Donald Trump appears to have gone against our Constitution once again. He posted, I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern-day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024. People who are in this country illegally will not be counted in the census. Thank you for your attention. The problem is that pesky Constitution, once again, which states the government is responsible for counting all persons in the United States as part of a process that's conducted every 10 years. This has been happening every 10 years since 1790. And in fact, in 2019, the Trump administration tried to add a citizenship question, but the Supreme Court said that they had to block its addition at the time due to insufficient justification. Then again, in 2020, the Trump administration issued a memorandum directing that illegal aliens be excluded from the appointment data. The courts ruled that this exceeded his presidential authority. So no, Donald Trump, you're not going to issue a new census without including undocumented immigrants. Thank you for your attention.
I'm sure y'all have already heard by now, but Donald Trump is secretly trying to remove several articles out of the Constitution. Now, they are trying to ban accounts for posting this information, but now that it has gone viral, I thought that we should talk about it. They're quickly trying to remove freedom of speech quietly from the Constitution to enrage the entire population of America. And they're quietly trying to remove several different other parts of the Constitution to sneakily take away your rights as an American citizen. What I do need you to understand is that this will more than likely be rejected. It will more than likely be overturned and rejected. We are one day away from a major portal, that of which I'm sure y'all know there is a spiritual and an energy battle at the exact same time going on right now. What I do know is that the only way that they can reverse the energy, because we're winning, long story short, we're winning this energy battle, which is why they're blocking us from seeing certain protests, which is why they're blocking us and censoring out information. They don't want us talking to each other, and they're trying to force certain things on us. If it feels like the energy is weird and they're trying to rage bait you into having emotions and anger, all of that is used to energy harvest off of you. So what can you do to combat this, especially with him quietly trying to change the Constitution? Give it no energy. Give it no energy. Allow the justice system to work, because we know for a fact that they're going to roll that back. We know that. We know that for a fact. Do not give them rage. Do not give them your anger. Don't even give them your time of day. Clock that tea. If you had to, get on your knees and pray. But as soon as they give you negativity, you take your ass into that sun, you journal, you go and do things that make you happy. But you stay the fuck away from things that are enraging you from now until the 12th of August. Do you understand me? Do you want to keep going through this bullshit? I know I don't. Keep your energy and vibrations high until August 12th. Do you understand me? Push this video far and wide. Otherwise, you'll get stuck. We will all get stuck in this world of negativity. It is just as much of a spiritual and energy battle as it is a physical one. What happens physically is being manifested from the spiritual realm first. Check your energy. Center yourself. Leave them in their nastiness and their ugliness. Don't give them the energy.